We already know how powerful Stasis Warlock is and the insane crowd control Bleak Watcher gives, but what if Bungie decided to buff the exotic that makes your Stasis Warlock feel nothing as they watch the frozen tundra they build? Let's get into it. I made this build with Grandmasters and Master Vault of Glass in mind, and I had two goals. Provide a brainless way to keep survivability at as high as we can, and provide crowd control and support for your fire team. Here is what I came up with. Using Shadebinder with Bleak Watcher, Glacial Harvest, and then Whisper of Torment, Whisper of Refraction, Whisper of Conduction, and Whisper of Durance. The exotic armor is the Stag. Our helm is going to have Dynamo and Protective Light. Our gloves are going to have 2 Bolstering Detonations and Elemental Charge. Our chest piece is going to have whatever damage resist mods we'd like, and then Firepower. Our boots are going to have whatever scavengers we'd like, and then Firepower. And then our class item is going to have 2 utility kickstarts and elemental shards. Glacial Harvest pairs with elemental shards and elemental charge to fund Charge with Light for firepower and protective light. And throw your rifts and Bleak Watchers on cooldown to be able to survive. That is all you need to do with this build. That's too long didn't watch. Now if you would like to see more, keep watching the video and I'm going to break everything down and also discuss some more tips and tricks later on. Everything will be in the description, timestamped below. For this build, we are using Stasis. This gives us the crowd control to complement our survivability, which creates an amazing synergy that can be used anywhere in the game, even if it's a little overkill. Now, I'm going to break down the class more. Winter's Wrath is our super here. Summon a Stasis Staff. While your super is active, our light attack casts out a barrage of 4 stasis shards that freezes targets, and our heavy casts out a shockwave that shatters all frozen targets. This is amazing in PvE just because the super continually freezes and detonates enemies. Specifically, I use this to help kill the wyverns in Master Vogue. It is amazing for that because the wyverns can't really do much while I'm casting it. Bleak Watcher is our first aspect here. Press and hold the grenade button to convert your grenade into a stasis turret that fires slowing projectiles at nearby targets. It is absurdly powerful. I'm sure everyone has heard this by now. It lasts for 25 seconds or 30 seconds with Whisper of Durance, and it just continually shoots out these projectiles unless the target is frozen, but as long as you have multiple targets, it just fires away. Our second aspect is Glacial Harvest. Freezing targets create stasis shards around the frozen targets. Higher tier combatants create more shards. And for that, it's miners create 1, majors and blayers spawn 2, and bosses spawn 3. I do believe Ice Flare Bolts is stronger on its own, but the mod and team synergy Glacial Harvest gives you makes it much better for this build. Now, Whisper of Conduction, nearby stasis shards track to your position, gives you 10 resilience, 10 intellect. Pretty simple. That way our shards just float towards us and we don't have to bother going into ads to pick them up. The range for this is about 15 meters. Whisper of Torment, you gain grenade energy each time you take damage from targets. And this is 4% grenade energy every time we take damage with a 1-second cooldown. And while we're standing in a healing rift, this is just great. Whisper of Refraction, defeating slowed or frozen targets grants you class ability energy. This ranges from anywhere from 5 to 25% based on the enemy's rank. And then Whisper of Durance, slows from your abilities last longer. For abilities that linger, their duration will also increase. And this increases your Bleak Watcher from 25 seconds to 30 seconds, as well as just increase the time for slowing and everything else, which makes it just a great one to have. Alternatively, you can use Whisper of Chains while you're near frozen targets or friendly stasis crystal. You take reduced damage from targets. I just find it a little overkill because you also need to be near the frozen targets, and usually you're trying to kill the frozen targets instead of keep them alive. Or you have to use your Glacial Nade instead of Bleak Watcher, which again you can do. It's just more micromanaging. Now for the stats, I'm going to show the min and max that I think is needed for each stat. Recovery and discipline are the most important here. Mobility, you want anywhere from 2 to 10. Resilience, you want anywhere from 3 to 10. Recovery, you want at 10. No compromises choices here. Discipline, you want anywhere from 7 to 10. Intellect should be anywhere from 3 to 10, and Strength should be anywhere from 3 to 10. Our exotic of choice is the Stag, and that is a world drop exotic, and it got a substantial buff in Season of the Lost. Breaking it down, we have Dearly Departed. Your rift provides damage reduction to allied guardians standing in it, grants rift energy when you are critically wounded. On your death, creates a healing rift on your corpse. And what that is grants you resist times 2, which is 25% damage reduction, and you gain 55% class ability energy when you're critically wounded. Both of those make sure that you have your rift up pretty quick, and you're barely taking damage inside your rift unless you're extremely overrun with ads. And now we are going to be going over mods for this build. On my helm I use Dynamo, reduces super cooldown when using your class ability near targets. This gives you about 5% super energy on a warlock and 8% if you use 2 mods. And Protective Light. While charged with light, you gain significant damage resistance against combatants when your shields are destroyed. This effect consumes all stacks of charged with light. The more stacks consumed, the longer the damage resistant lasts. And this is 50% damage resistance during that time. It is 5 seconds for 1 stack and then 10 seconds for 2 stacks. And then for the gloves, I use Bolstering Detonation. Grants class ability energy when you cause damage with a grenade. It's 25% with 1 mod and 35% with 2 mods. They're also very cheap, which makes it very easy to fit in champion mods around it. And Elemental Charge. Become charged with light by picking up an elemental well. If the elemental well's elemental type matches your subclass element, you gain 2 stacks of charge with light instead. And how we get our wells will be covered later in the build. Now for the chest piece, you're going to use whatever damage resistant mods you'd like. Here I am using Solar Resistance and Concussive Dampener. These mods provide a 25% damage reduction bonus, 40% if you double up on a mod. And then Firepower. While charged with light, regain a portion of your grenade energy when you use your grenade, consuming 1 stack of charge with light. This gives you 15% grenade energy per Firepower mod you have equipped. Next on the boots, you can have whatever scavengers you like, or even holster mods. And then also there is Recuperation, replenishes health each time you pick up an Overpower. You can even use Innervation if you feel like you don't get your grenade enough. Reduces grenade cooldown each time you pick up an Overpower. And then another Firepower, which brings our grenade energy to 30% whenever we cast it while charged with light. And finally for the bond, we are using Utility Kickstart. You can use this either once or twice, so that you can fit in any of these special class ability mods such as Particle Deconstruction this season. And Elemental Shards. Stasis Shards count as elemental wells for you, does not apply to Crucible, Trials, or Iron Banner. And this is what gives Glacial Harvest the huge synergy with this build, because now all we need to do is freeze an enemy and we get 2 times charge with light easily, which gives us more resistance and gives our grenade 30% energy every time we cast it. Our Rift cooldown is effectively around 30 seconds with 2 times Utility Kickstart. Then Bolstering Detonation can proc every 7 seconds with Bleak Watcher, giving another 35% class ability energy. This means you can have your Rift back in as little as 8 seconds theoretically. In practice, however, I would see my Rift back in around 11 to 12 seconds, which is still insane, and that's without getting any kills. With one of each mod, you can't chain as effectively without kills, but it is still possible, but with kills you can chain just as effectively. Your Rift can also extend the duration of Protective Light, allowing you to have 4 times resist, which is 50% damage resistance, if you can stay in your Rift. I do want to note that I noticed buffs being displayed have been buggy recently, and the resist did not always show. But when I got out, I still have 7 seconds of resist times 4. By combining Stag with a healing rift, we can easily tank damage, which allows our grenade to get back even quicker, and we can always keep up 1 to 2 Bleak Watchers without needing kills. Fatebinder Super can last longer by canceling the second set of orbs by immediately holding down Shatter after casting Freeze. This can allow you to do things such as solo barrier champs by chain freezing them, and just allow your super to last even longer for more ad clear. And finally, even though your you're a tanky son of a gun, a Screeb will still one-shot you in a rift on GMs with only 2 times resist. You are not immortal. Keep that in mind. However, at resist times 3, you can tank one, but that does require Whisper of Chains. Again, I found Durance to just be more brainless and useful, but as I said before, you can use chains instead. And now for the viability section. The pros for this build is that you can chain rifts with little to no kills required. You can always have 1 to 2 Bleak Watchers up. Stag makes you a lot harder to kill in a rift. And then Stag with Protective Light allows you to keep the 4 times resist for even longer. It has a mindless Charge with Light setup that requires no kills to activate. And the super can solo barrier champions, but also be a devastating ad clear tool at your disposal. And now for the cons for this build. We don't have Ice Flare bolts, which means chain freezing is a little harder. It kind of takes away a bit of the ad clear from the super as well, but you just don't get to be as aggressive as you could be with Ice Flare bolts. And the survivability and crowd control here is overkill for lower activities. So you're only going to really be using this for endgame stuff. The useful areas here are Master Vogue, Grandmasters, raids, and dungeons. You can definitely use it everywhere, but like I said, it's going to be overkill, and you can definitely get more done with better builds. And thanks for watching all the way through if you did. I hope you guys are enjoying all the builds. This is one that I'm actually a lot more proud of, and it's because one I do actually use a lot, which I think just helps me cover the builds better than just trying to churn them out. Also, I want to know if you guys like having gameplay, if you guys like me just kind of showing my character and emoting. Here I was just doing a easy solo bolt opening that ended up being extremely easy with this build, and really showcases that the build's meant for controlling the ads. I also just want to say I'm very happy that we've hit 400 subscribers now. I know it's been a lot slower in the past month or 2, but growth is still growth, and I'm happy with that. I hope you all have a great week, and I'll see you guys next time.